Hi, Sandra Turner reporting for the G&TSessions in now. I'm at Shoreditch Grind and call your mum. That's the message of today, call your mum. Anyway, this is where, you probably heard of Silicon Valley. You may have heard of Silicon Valley, that's in the west coast of America. And you probably may have heard of Silicon Beach, which is in Tel Aviv in Israel. Well, this is Silicon Roundabout. You see that? So only in the UK in London can you have something, a roundabout. You can see big Google advert and big red buses. This is basically where it all started a number of years ago. And in this building here, the white collar building behind me here, is where a certain Mr. Brian Rose and the London Real studio is. So big shout out to Brian. So this is a place called Old Street Roundabout. And this is where I suppose the start of the tech revolution in London, which is actually now the largest tech hub in Europe. So just want to run down by a lorry. So it dwarfs France, Germany, and all the other countries significantly. And Shoreditch and the further east is where all the tech companies, startups, VC startups, B2B startups are basing themselves. Since the Olympics in 2012, there's also a place called Here East, which has actually opened up to provide facilities for tech companies as well. So yeah, it's an interesting place, and you can see here also you've got the signs here. You've got Immersat, the satellite broadcasting companies based here as well. So yeah, the interesting thing about London is that although it obviously dwarfs the West Coast Silicon Valley from a unicorn perspective, this concept called the unicorns, so Uber, Snapchat, etc. A lot of these new, Airbnb, a lot of these new tech companies that have set up over the last 5 to 10 years. But now there's a lot of people looking at what do they do in other parts of the world, and there's a lot of support for creating unicorns and tech companies outside of the Silicon Valley. Obviously the VC community, which obviously funds, so the venture capitalists who fund the early startups, or can fund the early startups and private equity companies, my experience is they have a slightly different mindset to the US companies. I've had the benefit of working in Silicon Valley and working in London and Europe and Asia as well, and there's definitely a difference in the mindset, and also about the level of risk that these companies are prepared to take, or the funding investors are prepared to take on new ideas. And obviously you probably heard that there's a situation, especially in the valley, in Silicon Valley, where if they do, for example, 8 to 10 investments, then they're only expecting a couple of those investments to actually deliver big returns. So the whole process is quite an interesting piece of history. Anyway, one of the things that happened last night, which was quite interesting, I went to a couple of meetings. Went to a session with Microsoft and talked with them about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And this is this phenomenon where people are starting to use machines to make decisions and automate either customer interactions with bots that you have on websites or on mobile applications, or also how they automate routine tasks within an organisation. So it was a fascinating talk by some of the guys from Redmond. So Microsoft headquarters in Redmond, which is near Seattle, come over to do that presentation and share what Microsoft are doing globally around artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's a big phenomenon, and actually the guy that presented actually said that he believes it's going to be bigger than the internet. which is a pretty bold statement, but I can be honest with you, I can believe it, because it's a huge opportunity for organisations and individuals to change the way they use technology for their lives. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. Thanks for listening, and see you soon. Take care, bye bye.